I heard her die through a door I was paid to guard. The sounds, the struggle, the gasping, then silence. When Russian oligarch Alexei Volkov walked out, fresh blood on his white collar, he looked at me and said 2 words: "Clean that." I had a choice: look away and survive, or make sure Marina Kozlov didn't die for nothing. I chose honor. I'll never see my family again. This is what that cost me, and I'd do it again. My name isn't Viktor Petrov anymore. That man died the same night Marina did. But before that night, I was someone with a history. I served 8 years in the Russian military, Spetsnaz, special operations. I learned to read people the way most men read newspapers, quickly, accurately, looking for the thing that doesn't fit. I learned to stay calm when everything around me was chaos. And I learned that loyalty was the only currency that mattered. When I left the service at 32, I had skills, but no degree. A wife, Natasha, 2 daughters. Anya was 7, Katya was 4. We lived outside Moscow in the apartment that cost more than I wanted to admit each month. Natasha worked as a teacher. We were getting by. Barely. Then Dmitri, a friend from my unit, called me. "Petrov, how would you like to make real money?" Private security, oligarch protection. Dmitri had transitioned 2 years earlier and was pulling in more in a month than I'd made in a year in the military. "Who's the client?" I asked. "Alexei Volkov." Even I knew that name. Oil, gas, $14 billion, mansions in London, Monaco, Moscow, the kind of wealth that doesn't feel real until you see it. He needs a lead bodyguard for his Moscow residence, someone with your background, someone disciplined. It pays 8,000 euros a month. I did the math in my head. That was nearly a year's military salary. Per month. Natasha cried when I told her. Happy tears. "The girls can go to a better school," she whispered. "We can actually save." I met Volkov 3 days later. He was smaller than I expected. 54 years old, thinning hair, wireframe glasses. He looked like a professor, not a predator. He shook my hand and asked about my service record. He seemed impressed by the right things. "Victor, I need someone I can trust," he said. "Someone who understands discretion. I live a complicated life. I need to know that what happens in my home stays in my home." I nodded. Every wealthy man said some version of this. "Can you do that?" he asked. "Yes, sir," he smiled. "Good. You start Monday." For 8 months, the job was exactly what I thought it would be. I coordinated his security detail. I screened visitors. I stood outside rooms during private meetings. I drove him to the office. I swept his cars for tracking devices. He was polite, generous even. He gave me a bonus when Katya needed surgery for her appendix. I thought I knew who Alexei Volkov was. I was wrong. February 14th, 2019. I remember because Natasha had texted me that morning. "Don't forget, Valentine's dinner tomorrow. I made reservations." I was working nights that week. Volkov had meetings scheduled late. Some German investors, then a private appointment at 10 p.m. The calendar just said MK. The investors left at 9:47 p.m. I walked them to their car. At 9:56 p.m., a woman arrived, late 30s, dark hair pulled back, carrying a leather bag. She gave her name to the gate, Marina Kozlov. I checked the list. She was expected. I walked her through the security scan, standard protocol. She seemed nervous, kept adjusting her bag. "First time meeting Mr. Volkov?" I asked. She gave me a strange look. "You could say that." I brought her to the study on the 2nd floor. Volkov was already there, sitting behind his desk. He looked up when we entered. "Marina," he said. His voice was flat. "Thank you for coming." "I came to give you a chance to respond," she said, "before we publish." I stepped outside and closed the door. That was my job. Stand outside. Make sure they're not disturbed. For the first few minutes, I heard normal conversation, muffled voices, nothing unusual. Then her voice got louder. You can't threaten me into silence, Alexei. I have the documents, the transfers, the shell companies. I know what you did in Chechnya. I know about the money You know nothing. His voice cut through. Sharp now, angry. I know enough to destroy you. Silence. Then I heard movement. Fast, a chair scraping, something hitting the floor. Let go of me. My hand went to the door handle. But I stopped. This wasn't my business. Wealthy people argued. Sometimes it got heated. I was paid to stay outside. Then I heard choking sounds. Not coughing. Not gasping for air like someone who can't breathe. The sound of someone being strangled. I've heard it before. In Chechnya. You don't forget it. My heart was pounding. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to open that door. But I didn't. I stood there and I listened to Marina Kozlov die. It took 90 seconds, maybe less. It felt like hours. Then, silence. Footsteps. The door opened. Alexei Volkov stood there. His tie was loosened. His breathing was heavy. And there, on the left side of his collar, was a smear of blood. Our eyes met. I will never forget the look on his face. Not rage, not panic. Calm, like he'd just finished a phone call. Clean that, he said. He walked past me toward his bedroom. I stood there. My legs wouldn't move. Then I stepped into the study. Marina Kozlov was on the floor behind the desk. Her eyes were open. There were bruises already forming on her neck. Her bag had spilled. Papers everywhere, a recording device, a laptop. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. I should have called the police right then. But you need to understand something about men like Volkov. They don't make threats. They don't need to. You just know. If you cross them, you're choosing to destroy everything you love. My phone was in my hand. I thought about Natasha, Anya, Katya, and I took photos, 6 of them. Wide shots, close-ups of her neck, the recording device, the scattered documents. Then I stepped outside and called the number Volkov kept for special situations. 15 minutes later, 3 men arrived with cleaning supplies. By midnight, Marina Kozlov had never been there. Someone I respect told me this would fail, that no one cares about fictional billionaire crime, that I'd never hit 2,000 subscribers doing this. But if you're still here, you feel it too. These stories matter, so help me prove them wrong. Not for my ego, but because power like this deserves to be understood. Subscribe. Let's make a statement. I went home at 3 a.m. Natasha was asleep. I stood in the doorway of my daughter's room and watched them breathe. Anya had kicked off her blanket. I pulled it back over her. Katya was holding her stuffed rabbit. I had protected them, I told myself. I had kept them safe. But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marina's face. The next morning, I went to work like normal. Volkov was having breakfast when I arrived. He looked up from his newspaper. Good morning, Victor. Good morning, sir. He went back to reading. That was it. We never spoke about that night. Not once. But things changed. Volkov started giving me envelopes. Cash. 5,000 euros at a time. For your discretion, he'd say. I took the money. I told myself it was compensation for the risk I was taking, for the knowledge I carried. But really, I was being bought, and I let it happen. 3 days after Marina died, I saw her face on the news. Investigative journalist Marina Kozlov has been reported missing. She was last seen leaving her office in central Moscow on the evening of February 14th. Anyone with information is asked to contact. They showed a photo. She was smiling. She had a daughter. Her daughter was 12 years old. I turned off the TV. Natasha asked me what was wrong. Nothing, I said. Work stress. The lies were piling up, to my wife, to myself. 2 weeks later, the police came to Volkov's residence. They asked routine questions. Had he met with Marina Kozlov? Did he know anything about her disappearance? I stood in the background while Volkov gave his answers. "I've never met the woman," he said smoothly. "Perhaps she was investigating one of my competitors. You know how these journalists are, always making enemies." The detectives left. Volkov turned to me after they were gone. "You did well, Victor, staying quiet." That's when I realized he knew I had a choice that night, and he was reminding me that I'd made it. 1 month passed, then 2. I kept working, kept taking the envelopes, kept going home to my family. But I wasn't sleeping. I'd lost weight. Natasha kept asking if I was sick. "I'm fine," I'd say. I wasn't fine. I started drinking. Not a lot, just enough to quiet the noise in my head. In May, they found Marina's body, a construction site outside Moscow. Shallow grave. Decomposed, but dental records confirmed it. See, the news reported it as a probable murder. No suspects. Her daughter gave a statement on TV. "My mother was a truth-teller," she said, her voice shaking. "Someone killed her because she was about to expose them, and they're going to get away with it." That night, I got drunk. Really drunk. Natasha found me in the kitchen at 2 a.m., staring at my phone. "Victor, what is happening to you?" I almost told her. The words were right there, but I looked at her face, the concern, the love, and I couldn't do it, because telling her meant putting her in danger. So I lied again. "I'm just tired," I said. She didn't believe me, but she stopped asking. In July, Volkov called me into his office. "Victor, I'm going to be traveling more. London, Monaco. I'd like you to come with me." "Of course." "Ah, sir." "There's something else." He slid a folder across the desk. "I'm setting up a trust for your daughters. Education fund. 200,000 euros. I stared at the paperwork. "That's very generous, sir." "You've been loyal," he said. "Loyalty deserves reward." I signed the papers. I was complicit now. Fully. He owned me. That night, I looked at the photos on my phone. The ones from that night. Marina's body. The evidence. The truth. I'd kept them as insurance. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that it happened. But what was I going to do with them? If I went to the police, Volkov would know. His reach was everywhere. I'd be dead within a week. And my family. I couldn't think about my family. So I did nothing. For 8 more months, I did nothing. I just carried the weight. And it was destroying me. December 2019. Volkov was hosting a New Year's party. Oligarchs, politicians, models. Champagne that cost more per bottle than most people made in a month. I was working security in the main hall when I saw someone I recognized. Another journalist. Younger guy. Mid-20s. He was talking to one of Volkov's business partners. I watched him. Something about the way he was asking questions. Later, I found him near the bathroom. "Your press," I said. He looked startled. "I'm a guest." "No, you're not." He studied me for a moment. Then he lowered his voice. "I'm following up on Marina Kozlov's investigation. I think she was killed because of what she found on—" "Stop," I said. "You need to leave. Now." "Why?" "Because if you keep asking questions here, you'll disappear too." His face went pale. "Did you know her?" I didn't answer. He handed me a card. "If you know something, anything, please." I took the card. I don't know why. Maybe because I was tired of carrying it alone. Or maybe because I saw Marina's daughter's face every time I closed my eyes. That night, I went home and I made a decision. I copied the photos to a USB drive. I hid it in a book, one Natasha would never read. And I started planning. If I was going to do this, I had to be smart. I needed protection. I needed leverage. I needed to make sure that when I spoke, the world would listen. And I needed to make sure my family was safe first, because once I opened my mouth, there was no going back. January 15th, 2020. I contacted the FBI through their embassy in Moscow, not the Russian police. They were in Volkov's pocket. Everyone was. And I sent an encrypted email. I have evidence in the murder of Marina Kozlov. I need protection. They responded in 6 hours. We met in a hotel room. 2 agents, 1 American, 1 British. They recorded everything. I told them what I saw, what I heard. I showed them the photos. "This is significant," the American agent said. "But Volkov is a Russian national. We can't extradite him. We can expose him, sanction him, freeze assets, but he'll never see the inside of a courtroom." "I don't care about a courtroom," I said. "I care about the truth." "The truth will make you a target," the British agent said. "You understand that?" I understood. They offered me witness protection, a new identity, relocation to the United States. "What about my family?" I asked. "We can try to get them out." "But if Volkov suspects anything before we move—" They didn't finish the sentence. I had to choose. Bring my family with me and risk Volkov finding out before they were safe, or go alone. Testify, and hope I could get them out later. I called Natasha from a secure line. "I need you to trust me," I said. "Something is going to happen. I can't explain it now, but I need you to be ready to leave. Fast." "Victor, you're scaring me." "I know, I'm sorry, I love you." I hung up. 2 days later, the FBI moved me to a safe house in Poland. 3 days after that, my testimony was leaked to the press. The headlines exploded. Bodyguard claims Russian oligarch murdered journalist. Witness in Kozlov case comes forward. Volkov's lawyers released a statement. "These are baseless accusations from a disgruntled former employee seeking attention and money." But I had the photos, and the photos went viral. Within a week, the EU froze Volkov's assets. The UK revoked his visa. His business partners started distancing themselves. He was still free, still untouchable in Russia. But his empire was crumbling. Then I got the call I'd been dreading. My FBI handler. "Victor, we have a problem." My family was gone, not relocated, not in protection, gone. Natasha, Anya, Katya, they'd vanished from their apartment. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, just gone. "We're doing everything we can to find them," the agent said. But we both knew what had happened. Volkov had taken them. Collateral. A message. I broke down, completely. I screamed. I threw things. I begged them to do something. "We're trying," they kept saying. "We're trying." But trying doesn't bring back the people you love. That was 14 months ago. Since then, 2 assassination attempts. One in Poland, a man with a knife in a grocery store. I saw him coming. Training saved me. Another in London. Poison in my food. I got lucky. The symptoms started fast enough that they got me to a hospital. Volkov put a $5 million bounty on my head. I live under a new name now, somewhere in the United States. I can't say where. I can't work, can't have friends, can't live. I exist, and every day I wonder if my family is alive. The FBI says they're still looking, but it's been over a year. Some nights, I hope they're alive, being held somewhere, scared but alive. Other nights, I hope it was quick. I hate myself for thinking that, but hope is exhausting when it's all you have. Marina Kozlov's daughter reached out to me through my lawyers. She wanted to say thank you. "You gave my mother a voice," she wrote. "You made sure she didn't die in silence." I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a man who waited too long, who chose his comfort over someone's life, who only did the right thing when the guilt became unbearable. But her daughter knows the truth now, And because of that, Volkov will never be clean again. He's still free, still wealthy, but the world knows what he is. I chose honor over survival. I lost everything, but I'd make the same choice again. Because some silences are more expensive than the price of speaking.
This is what it looks like when employees expose their billionaire bosses. Not every story ends in justice. Not every whistleblower gets protection. But every truth matters. If this story moved you, if it made you think about power, complicity, and the cost of silence, subscribe to Billionaire Exposed. Every week, I bring you real stories of employees who stood up to the ultra-wealthy. Some won. Some lost everything. But they all spoke. Hit subscribe. Let's keep shining light where it's needed most.